Hey, what's up everybody? It's Huts, it's 10:45, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Have you ever had those days when you just have zero motivation to do anything? And this means zero motivation, a double X. I've had zero motivation to do video game footage lately, and I'm not sure what it is. I don't think it's permanent, but I sit down at the computer and I'm like, yeah, let's do stuff, and I just blank, and I'm like, well, shit, let's play Minecraft? No, let's play, I don't know, and then I end up getting like too many games out there, and I've done this before with you guys, and then I end up not playing through some of those games because I just kind of get bored with them. So yeah, this is me being bored, and I have no idea what I'm doing, but I thought I would just kind of turn the camera on and start talking to you guys. So there's a few things that I wanted to mention, one of which is I will be moving like in 2 weeks, and I'll be moving into a house with both Josh and Ryan, and you guys probably remember those guys from the Gang Beasts video. I'm pretty excited for this move because we'll probably play video games together, and I hope I'll make some videos of that. I'm thinking things like more Gang Beasts, more Prop Hunt, Minecraft. Another thing I wanted to mention was that I want to start doing more vlogs, and that does not necessarily mean less video games, it just means more vlogs. And I'm looking for ideas, and what that can look like is I would like to have something almost like a table talk where I just kind of answer questions, because that's a lot of fun. I like to talk to you guys, I like to tell stories, but sometimes I need a little push to get into that storytelling mode or something to talk about. Also, I would love to pull my girlfriend in on some videos, but don't worry because it's not going to be a repeat of last time. Trust me. And last time, a certain somebody got a little too involved on my channel, and that's not what I'm looking for, so do not even give me that shit. But anyways, examples of things to do with either my girlfriend or my friends, like challenge videos, any kind of vlog type ideas. I want to maybe even do some comedy sketches. I know I've talked to you guys about that before, and I've kind of dabbled in that area, but I want to explore that for real. But apart from that, I thought I would start it off with a story that I mentioned earlier and didn't go into, and I will for you guys. So one of my roommates in college was heading back home, and he asked me, he said, hey, Huts, do you want to come home with me? We're gonna, party it up, we're gonna hit up the bars, we're just gonna have a lot of fun. And I said, you know what? I'm not doing shit. So yeah, great, let's go, let's do it. And on the way down, we got to talking about what we could do to make the weekend more interesting. One thing that we thought of was that I could pretend that I was an exchange student from some foreign country, and I could whip out some kind of foreign accent. Now with this friend, we had kind of gone back and forth practicing our fake accents. I'm from Ireland, 33 and a third, top of the morning to you. And so I was trying to think of which accent I would want to pull out, and for some reason we decided that I was going to go with an Australian accent. And now I've never practiced the Australian accent before this point, and so I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. So he introduced me to his friends. He said, hey everybody, this is my friend Huts. And I walked up to them and I said, oi mates, I'm Huts, I'm from Australia. And that started the entire weekend down that line. It was the most ridiculous Australian accent I could think of, saying the most ridiculous classic Australian words I could muster up at the time, and everyone bought it. It was so funny because nobody even questioned it. Nobody even said, hey, that sounds ridiculously fake. I guess there were a few people that kind of took a second. They said, wait, are you real? And I was like, oh mate, yeah, I'm real. And so after the first night of just bullshitting my way through the first bar, and if you guys know, certain bars are pretty loud and you don't really get to talk to people that much, so I only got a few words in and people seemed to believe it. And so after that first night, I made it through. Everyone thought I was Australian. I ended up looking up a backstory because I figured at some point people might start asking me like legitimate questions. So I pulled out my phone and I searched up where was I going to live. Well, let's see here. I live in West Brunswick, and that is near the southern tip of Australia. This is a suburb like just outside of Melbourne, Australia. And so then I researched, what do I do? Okay, let's see here. I play like cricket, and what do I drink? What kind of words do I say? Like bickies is another name for like dollars. And so the next night, people from around town heard that I was Australian, and everybody wanted to talk to me. Everybody was so interested, because this is small town Minnesota that we're talking about. And so everyone was so fascinated that I had an accent, and nobody had a good enough ear to tell that I was completely faking it. The funniest part, probably the funniest part of the entire night, was that before we showed up that second night, we went to like a gas station, like liquor store, and we got 2 giant cans of Foster's, Australian for beer. And I don't even think that they drink Foster's in Australia. They might. You guys should clue me in if you're from Australia. Also, I'm sure you're facepalming hard right now because I suck at my Australian accent. I know, I get that. So everyone at this party is just drilling me with questions like, oh, what's life like there? And oh, like, where'd you go to school? And blah, blah, blah. And then people started asking me things like, it was like, dude, girls love people with Australian accents here. Girls love anybody with an accent. And he said, what do girls in Australia think about guys from the US? Do they dig the US accent? And I just looked at them and I'm like, nah. No, mate, no. Girls don't like guys with American accents. At one point, I was talking to one of the friend that I went with. Let's call him Larry. I was talking to Larry's friend, and this was a guy who was sitting there with his legs crossed, and he had a glass of brandy, like a tumbler of brandy sitting at a bar, and he's like, swirling it around like, yes. And I sit down with this guy, and I just knew he was trouble because he was gonna ask me like really, really deep questions about Australia. And so he comes up to me, and of course he, as a scholar, he's a gentleman and he's a scholar. He wants to ask me all these intense questions, and he comes up to me and he's like, so, what do you think about the politics in Australia? And I didn't know, like, if he was just shitting with me, like perhaps he was just testing me, but I absolutely just, oh my god, I don't even remember what I said. I blacked out and it was just on top of my A game. I'm like, oh yes, Australian politics, actually, it's quite different from that of America. Obviously I have my Australian accent, but just making up shit. And he's like, oh, what kind of things do you do there for fun? And I'm like, oh, I like to play, this game and that game, and just throw in some random Australian words. It was perfect. And at this point, I knew that I could convince this guy that I was Australian. I could convince anybody that I was Australian. And no, I'm sure you're probably wondering, I did not use my Australian accent to get laid that weekend. I probably could have, but I'm not really that type of guy that just wants to, randomly do that kind of shit. But the point is, I convinced probably 30 so people that I was Australian, and lasted a good 2.5 days as an Australian guy in this town. And people were buzzing hard about this. At one point, this girl was like, oh my god, this guy, he's like not even speaking words, like, because I was throwing in Australian words and she didn't know what they meant, and she was just like, her mind was fucking blown. So yeah, that's probably one of my craziest bar stories ever. And you guys might think that, like, oh, you're a scumbag, you pretended to be somebody else. I know it was like super trolly, but it was a lot of fun. And I didn't know any of these people. I'm never gonna see them again. As far as I know, and as far as they care, it doesn't really matter. So if you ever see anybody at a bar who is whipping out an accent and pretends to be somebody, ask some questions first, and some questions that you actually know the answer to, because if you ask questions like the gentleman and the scholar who asked me about Australian politics, he obviously didn't know anything about Australian politics, so I was able to just bullshit my way through it. So yeah, I'm Huts, and I'm apparently Australian. I will see you guys on the next video. If you guys have any suggestions for questions you want to ask me, or ideas for videos, and please send them to me. Send them to HutsLP on Twitter. So at HutsLP. I'm definitely looking for new ideas. Probably just gonna come up with a bunch on my own, but would definitely appreciate you guys leaving me a message on Twitter. See you in the next video, guys. Yeah, mate, I'm wearing a fucking pink shirt. What about it, you shit?